Okay, let's learn History Chapter 1, Historiography, Development in the West. In the first chapter, we are learning in this chapter tradition of historiography, modern historiography, development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography, and notable scholars. Let's begin. Historical research, writing, and studies are carried out with an objective of understanding the chronology of the past events and their interconnections. This is called as a continuous process. How do we learn history? We learn history in a chronological manner. What is chronology? Chronology is arranging the events in a timeline manner. Let me give you an example. If I talk about the first half of the 19th century, if I talk about the main events, 1914, the world saw World War I. 1918, World War I got over. 1920, the world saw establishment of the League of Nations. 1939, the world once again experienced World War II. 1945, World War II got over. So what did I just do? I arranged all these events year to year in a timeline manner. This timeline is called as chronology. Understanding history chronologically becomes very easy. We understand it well when we arrange it year to year. Now let us understand what historiography is all about. While digging in the ground, I got a pen. But then when I took out the pen, which I found, I saw this pen was a little different from the pen which I use now. And something was written on the pen. I couldn't understand what language is this. So then I took this pen to my elder brother. My elder brother also couldn't understand what is written on this pen. So that is why he called an expert. An expert came, an expert who has knowledge about all this. This expert came and he then started examining the pen. After examining, he told that this pen is a pen not from the present generation, not from the present times, but this is a pen used by people in the olden days. Then I questioned him about what was written on the pen. He did not understand because this was not in any present language. So he then called other experts. So the other experts came and then they examined the pen. They too examined the pen. After examining, they then saw the pen carefully. After seeing the pen carefully, they drew out a conclusion. And then they wrote all these things on a piece of a paper. After writing this on a piece of a paper, all the historians sat together, and these historians later started clearing each other's doubt. All the doubts were cleared, and they finally came to a conclusion that this pen belonged to the past era. This pen was as old as maybe 2000 or 4000 years, and those days people never knew the art of writing, and what they only knew was inscribing something on it. So the pen had some inscriptions on it. Thus they finally gave out a conclusion, and they wrote that on a piece of a paper. The other historians then gave their signatures and proved it that this pen is 2000 years old, not from the present era but from the past era. Then this particular document, signed by all the historians having information about this pen, is called as historiography. So in short, what is historiography? Historiography is critically analyzing after clearing all the doubts. Is called as historiography. critical historical narrative is known as historiography. A scholar who writes such a narrative is a historian. Now let's compare science and history. In science, we have this laboratory method where you can go to the laboratory and perform some experiments. After performing experiments, you come to a conclusion. But is it possible in history? Definitely not. If I explain you World War I and if I say you this happened in World War I, that happened in World War I, Germany did this, England did that, can you go back to 1914 and view all these events? No, not possible. So, in science, it is easy to go to the laboratory and perform experiments proven in the past, but in history, it is not possible. And for such things, you therefore require a historian or you require an expert to understand what it is. So when I did not understand about the pen, what did I do? I called an expert. The experts came, they saw this, they examined it, they cleared all their doubts and wrote it on a piece of a paper. After writing it on a piece of a paper, they came to a conclusion, and thus then that piece of paper became a historiography. Am I clear about this? History TV channel, a lot of people must be having this channel. There's a program wherein if you find anything of the past era, your great grandfather, your great grandmother, she kept some coins in the cupboard, and then you don't understand what to do about it, so then you think of selling those coins. So you go to the shops. So when you go to the shop, you sell this to the shopkeeper, and then the shopkeeper will give you some price. He will first try to value it historically. If it is a historical product, you will definitely get a good price. And if the shopkeeper is unaware of this particular thing, what will the shopkeeper do? The shopkeeper will then call an expert. The expert will come and then he will thoroughly examine that particular product. After thoroughly examining that product, the shopkeeper, the expert will tell the shopkeeper that this particular product is original. He will prove its authenticity. A lot of people I've seen in some episodes, they come with a book or they come with a piece of a paper and saying that I have a piece of a paper and on that paper I have signature of Abraham Lincoln. So then when the shopkeeper is having a doubt, what he does, the shopkeeper calls an expert. The expert comes, signature expert, he comes and then he, through the magnifying glass, he then examines it carefully. And then after thoroughly examining it, he then comes to a conclusion. He says whether this is original signature or just a fake one. So therefore you require an expert in history. An expert gives out his conclusion. When an expert gives out his conclusion, that particular thing, piece of a paper, then becomes a historical document. Am I clear?